Hello. Welcome back to my channel. Yes, it's been a while, but we back. If you notice, there's a difference here. Yes, so this review is delayed. And by the way, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Runner. And we are back for another episode of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, season Sweet 16, episode 6, and it's called Peace Interrupted. But before we get into it, yes. Hey girl, hey, we're back. So the view is looking a little bit different. I have moved. I mentioned before that I was in the middle of doing that, so that's why we're going to have a delay in the videos. And so this is kind of what I got going on. This is going to be where I'm filming things moving forward. It may not necessarily be in this view, but I have a room that I created in my place dedicated to filming. So I'm excited that I'm putting more money where my mouth is when it comes to making things a little bit better. Eventually, I'm going to get better mics, hopefully get better video editing, stuff. We're going to work with it. We're going to continue to evolve as we continue to proceed to give you what you need. Anyway, so let's get into the review. This episode basically was pretty much the aftermath of what happened and what Kenya did. And overall, the episode was just okay. There wasn't really that much of forward movement when it came to stories, other than kind of the aftermath. And it's interesting. So we're not going to do this quite in order. We're going to go by person to person because honestly, I don't think this needs to be a super long review because I am a little nervous now watching how this episode progresses, how the rest of the season is going to go. And sorry, I apologize. I don't know where my chopstick is right now because I'm still trying to unpack and stuff. So, I told myself, okay, we're going to at least try to get some things done as far as filming is concerned and get back to it. I did take the whole entire week off to kind of just get all that figured out. The big thing that I did today, I know this is not related to the Real Housewives, but one of the main things I did today was my cats are here. They're here. But they're not comfortable. So they're kind of both hiding, but they're hiding in plain sight. So I'm okay with that because I kind of figured that would be the case. I tried to put everything kind of close to them so they could just kind of figure out every room. But right now they're kind of in the main living room. And I'm like, okay, they'll figure it out eventually that this is their new home and everything is going to be theirs. So it's kind of going as expected. A little bit better than I thought because I thought they were going to fight me to go into the carrier to come here. And it wasn't. It was nothing to it. But anyway, so let's go by person to person. Let's first start off with Cynthia. So Cynthia is just basically she's not really in the episode, but she's in the beginning of the episode. She's not actually in the episode, but her confessional is in the episode. And she basically is just expressing how she's disappointed in Kenya's behavior, what she did. And everyone's just kind of at the beginning, kind of sharing how they feel about the situation. And basically everyone agrees Kenya took it way too far, including me. I agree with that too. But, there really is no but. She took it too far. It's just what it is. So that's pretty much the little bit of Cynthia. It was just the very beginning, kind of just talking about that. After that, we don't really see her we don't see her really at the rest of the episode. So then also the next person that we kind of talked to a little bit about it, but she's not really, I guess the next thing, notable thing before we get to more talking about the aftermath. Let's take a break from that and talk about all the other things that are brewing. Basically, Portia is still pretty much complaining about this divorce and how things are not going well. And unfortunately, her daughter is involved in it. And is it just me or I'm having a tough time feeling bad for Portia? Just considering knowing what we all knew before everything happened. I feel bad for her daughter. I do feel bad for her daughter. And so pretty much the main thing that happened with this episode was she was kind of talking about that. Her and Shamia had kind of a lunch date where they played mini golf and stuff together, indoor mini golfing, and kind of helped get her mind off of that. And then the other notable thing is Drew and Portia put a pin in whatever situation they have going on, their conflict. It seems it's definitely a one-sided conflict. Portia is the one who has issues with Drew, not really the other way around. And they did decide to put a pin in it because what ended up happening during the episode, while they were talking about the aftermath of everything that happened, Shamia, Angela, Portia, and actually, I'm not sure if Angela was there. I'm trying to remember if Angela was there. Drew was there. No, actually, everyone was there minus Brittany. Minus Britt. Everyone was there minus Britt. Kind of just talking about how they want to like kumbaya the ladies and get everyone together and get everyone on one accord. And that, so this is at, I believe it was at Shamia's place where they were doing this. And so while they were talking at Shamia's place, Kelly decided she was going to have like a peace brunch. So what gets the girls together at the very end of the episode is Kelly's peace brunch. But leading up to that, other side things were being discussed, of course, throughout this episode, which included the issues with Drew and Portia. And for now, they're putting a pin in it. So that's kind of all that's happening with that. Portia did vent about how her divorce was going, and Drew in her confessional, she's like, I want to be there for her because I'm literally going through a similar situation right now, but because we're not really good, I can't really do anything about it. And that's one thing I find that's funny, not just really just with this franchise, but in general, when it comes to a lot of Real Housewives franchises, a lot of the girlies will be going through a similar situation, but they're have a petty conflict that's trumping that at the moment where they can't, get on a good foot and kind of just support each other. And I don't know, I guess in real life, I feel like if I had a similar conflict or a similar issue with someone and we're kind of arguing, but we're really not arguing about anything really that serious, I'll put a pin in that and just help, us navigate things together and then discuss it at a later date. But child, that ain't how it goes. So then that's kind of pretty much all that Portia kind of was when it comes to this episode. Portia did also, she didn't come to the final event because she was sick that day. So I kind of wanted to get her out of the way because she's not going to be in the final scene. So there's that. All right. So then also in this episode, we're seeing more of Drew's issues with her estranged husband Ralph. And Ralph, again, I don't know who Ralph has wrapped around his finger when it comes to production, but the fact that he keeps getting a confessional, it is sending me. Why does he have a confessional? He wants to be a housewife so bad, but you're giving it to him. To the point where even Drew, so we see a scene where Drew is her time is about to be over with when it comes to her time with the kids. And what we learn is the days where basically Ralph has the kids, like Drew has to leave the house. He just goes upstairs and he has to bring over the whole entire house. And then she has to go and leave. And that's like how they're doing it right now with this divorce. And I have so many questions on how that's really working and how that's even okay. I get why, because, Drew's kids, their beds are like upstairs, they're not in the basement. So I get that, but at the same time, are like certain rooms locked for it to work like that? Because I don't know if it's that contentious of a divorce. It's interesting. I guess I have questions. To me, it just doesn't add up all the way. But it's Drew. Things do not usually add up all the way when it comes to Drew. So then, anyway. So basically, she's trying to make breakfast for the kids, and they're like, and then Ralph just comes upstairs. He's like, it's my time now. And when Drew was leaving and talking to her sister, Allison, she's like, he doesn't normally do that. He just waits till I leave and do that. But instead he did this. And from what it sounds like, he's putting on for the cameras. And we know that is what Ralph does. He's done it the whole entire time they've been on this show. And I'm pretty sure that might be part of the reason why Drew's like fed up. She's like, why is he putting on right now? Like, what is this? What was that about? And I guess also Ralph probably doesn't really care for the fact that she lies a lot, because she does lie a lot. So that was kind of one of the things that happened with Drew this episode. The other notable thing that happened with Drew this episode is she actually ended up going, meeting Shamia and Angela Oakley at the studio, because Shamia's recording her music, and we saw RL from Next and another major producer helping Shamia on the song. And she had this song that she that we heard in the show called T-Shirt. I like that song a lot. It is a bop. It's given a bop. And they were just kind of talking about their music and how it's freeing. And one thing that I love about Angela so far, Angela's definitely playing the role of moving the story along this season. Like, she knows what she's doing with this. So one of the things she mentioned was like, so Shamia, what was Portia's deal at my event? Like, why was she like trying to say that wasn't you when it was totally you singing? And we find out in the confessional, Shamiya is still very, very much hurt about Portia's comments and kind of dismissing her and her music. And even Drew, to a certain degree, is, because Shamia was like, it's no shade to you, Drew, but like that kind of hurt my feelings because it's my stuff. And Drew didn't take it as any shade. She totally understood. She's like, no, we as artists were sensitive about our ish. And so now you're just kind of brushing it over as if it's like whatever, but it's like, this is my art. And I get it. I kind of feel that way even when it comes to my content creating. For how much I do on this channel, I don't advertise it nearly enough. Even when it comes to my friends, like I kind of just like, I'm very flippant saying, yeah, I have a YouTube channel. I kind of keep it pushing, but really I should be advertising it way more than I do. But I don't know. I just kind of have this thing where I'm just not sure yet. I'm working on that though. I think the more I put behind this, as far as like, set change, even a better mic, things like that, I think my confidence will change when it comes to that. So I'm just kind of tying it together to saying I totally agree with Shamia feeling away. And that's supposed to be like her best friend. And it does come up in this conversation that Shamia be having Portia's back more than Portia be having her back. And Shamia, basically she owns it. She's like, I'm a people pleaser. It's a problem of mine. I'm trying to address it, but that's part of the issue. And as a retired people pleaser, I get that as well. I must say, Shamia is just such a great addition to this cast. I know we were talking about Drew a little bit, but like, this was more of a Shamia scene. So let's use this to kind of tie it in, and we'll talk more about Shamia as well. So with Shamia this episode, what we basically saw was her supporting Portia, and Portia seeing that mentioned earlier on, Shamia having the girls over, talking about the aftermath of Brit, and then also the studio session with RL and the ladies. And then at the very end, she actually ends up being, well, let's get to that event last. Well, I'll put a pin in pretty much, that's all that was really a Shamia thing. Everything else was kind of pretty much your main characters. And even with Angela wasn't really in this episode that much, minus the scenes I mentioned. They did give Angela a little bit of a hard time about her always having a fan. Because she's like, I'm not premenopausal. Like, I don't know why these ladies say that about me. And she had this cute little clap back at her confessional. She's like, I'm just hot. When you are that girl, you're always sweating. And I'm just like, work it. I guess also the other thing I could be thinking, I don't know how long Angela Oakley's been in Atlanta. Because if she's originally from up north like I am, I imagine the first couple years, maybe 3 or 4 years, I would probably be sweating way more than everyone else down there because that south humidity is way different than up north. We don't get that kind of humidity up here. There's like our humidity is more of like a cooling humidity usually. Summer months it gets a little crazy, but it still is nothing compared to what it is like in Bama, Georgia, or Florida, or any of those places. So I'm just wondering, maybe that's part of it, but that's just neither here nor there. That's just a side note. But that's kind of, we'll talk more about Angela towards the end of the episode because she did get activated towards the end. Okay, so then the other person that we, really was a big part of this episode was Kelly. Kelly was definitely the main person that had Britt's back from the beginning to the point where she actually came. She was one of the only cast members that came to Britt's house to check up on her. And so when she went to check up on her, she brought a surprise of doing like the drip IV stuff so that they can help, get things, start afresh, start anew. And also the event at the very end was Kelly's event. But the other thing that did come up in this episode that was just tied to Kelly and Kelly only is that she was hanging out with her oldest daughter. They were doing yoga together. It was actually quite cute. And we find out that her estranged husband is out of jail. And which is a big deal because this is the guy she has a restraining order against. This is the reason why she has to have security. That kind of thing. It's clearly not a safe type of situation. And we find out in this episode that this man owes her over $10,000 worth of back child support and has only made one payment the whole time. And also now that things are moving along with the divorce, their news is going out on Front Street. Like everyone's hearing about it. And it's really, really tough. And the oldest, she has her opinion. She's trying to lean on her mom and trying to help with her mom. And it's sad when the oldest, because one thing that the oldest said that I felt her on, and my parents are happily married, by the way. Well, they're married. Some days they're happy, some days they're not. I feel like now that I'm a little bit more mature, they're happily married. It was contingent, throughout the years. There was just times where it was up and downs. But when you're younger and you don't really grasp or understand that, it could translate differently than what it is. But anyway, I say all that to say, for the longest, I think I'm the similar way when it comes to I see my mom and her relationship with my dad. And as much as I love my dad, I don't want that kind of relationship. Because for those who don't know, my mom does have some mental health struggles. Similar to Angela Oakley's mom. So the dynamic is not a normal dynamic, for one. So let me add that caveat out there. But with that being said, there's just a lot that when you grow up in that, there's just certain things you're like, So I get what the daughter said. What the daughter said pretty much in this scene, she's like, I don't want to get married because if marriage is in the way it is happening with you, I don't want it. And I felt her there. And it's sad too, because you saw when she said that to Kelly, Kelly was didn't really have anything to say to her about it. Because, she's exposed to seeing the ugly of it. So what do you say to your child when they are seeing the ugly? Anyway, so that's kind of all that happened here. That was kind of the own scene with Kelly. And then, of course, we're going to get to that event. But before we get to the event, let's talk about Britt and what's going on with her. So Britt, this whole entire episode is basically completely distraught about everything that occurred and disgusted, as she should be. It was her business that was out there on Front Street. And this is where we hear in the episode that one of the pictures that was blew up was her when she was a teenager still. And so, yeah, Kenya, that is very problematic. That is extremely problematic. It was already problematic before, but that adds a whole entire another layer of it being a whole entire problem. And this is according to Britt, by the way. And we also find out, according to Britt, that like she scrubbed all this from the internet, so she doesn't understand how, Kenya's investigators found what they found, considering she scrubbed it off from the internet. And she says she feels targeted, and now as a result, according to Britt, she don't trust none of the ladies in this group. No one. And I get it, because that is a very it's a very messed up type of situation. Take away from the fact that is Britt's personality the best on this show? No. If Kenya wouldn't have done what she did, would Britt most likely be one and done? Yes. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. So basically though, she has the sit down with Kelly and she's talking about that, but then she also talked to it with her husband, and her husband's just like, even he is shocked, and he's kind of like a man of few words, and he's just like, wow, that is insane. And I mean, I don't know how you clean that up. It really is not cool what happened. Also, too, Britt mentioned that this is the first time, because of what happened, she ended up talking to her mom about it. It was the first time she's talked to her mom for years. But because of what happened, she talked to her mom, and now she's being supportive of her and all that good stuff. And so let's get to the actual event and what happened at the event. So as I mentioned, this event was at Kelly's, and she did kind of like a peace brunch tea party situation. And so all the ladies are basically wearing like kind of tea party-esque kind of outfits. And side note, I still want to do a tea party. I didn't do a tea party for my birthday. What I ended up doing, because child, if y'all know, Aries season. Yeah, my birthday was yesterday, so happy belated birthday to moi. But I wanted to do a tea party situation, but I didn't want to alienate like half my friends, because my friend group is very mixed. I have both men, women. I have all ends of the spectrum when it comes to like my friend group. And so I didn't want to alienate the guys by doing like a tea party, but I really want to do a tea party. So a group of us girls, we're still going to do the tea party at another time. Just saying. Anyway, and we might do, we might do that. We might do that. And I might see if the guys want to go too, because I think some of the guys would be into it. Because they could just pretend like the Kentucky Derby or whatever. Because I want to dress up and everything. I want what Kelly had going on in this final scene. I want that. Anyway, so everyone shows up one by one. Drew's actually, this is probably the first scene that I've seen Drew being there on time. Because, child, she's never on time typically. We need to get to the bottom of that, by the way. And hopefully we do in another episode. But, like, why is Drew never on time when it comes to her scenes? Just saying. Anyway, so basically, though, they're there. Britt shows up last. Kelly explains to ladies, hey, well, before Britt shows up, Kelly does explain to ladies what's going on with her situation with her ex. And they all feel for her. There's like, God, divorce is tough. And they're kind of, rallying and like being like, okay, we got you. And then Britt shows up. And then once Britt shows up, she does explain to ladies, hey, and Britt like, hey, we're here for you. We've heard Kenya's side of what's going on. We want to hear your side of it. Why does she say that for? Because Britt immediately got on the defense. She's like, why did you need to hear Kenya's side? For what? Da da da. And I'm just like, Brett, you doing what you did all the way prior to Kenya taking it too far is the reason why all this happened. Yes, two things can be true. Kenya took it way too far, but you started this, and you're not taking any accountability for that. And I'm glad we have another housewife on this episode who was thinking the same way I was thinking, and they got into it. Because Britt's like, why, in the confessional, she's like very annoyed, and she's like, this is why I don't trust none of the ladies, because they're checking up on her, but they're not checking up on me. And it's like, they don't know you. Like, Kenya is like, especially when it comes to the sake of like Drew and some of the other girlies on the show, she's a staple of the show. They're gonna check on her. She has seniority, even if you were to break it down to job type of situation. Like, and then Britt's like, well, I apologized to her. I owned up to what I did. But did you though? I'm just saying, did you? Yeah, we saw you apologize, but was that apology genuine? I don't think it was. In my personal, I don't think it was. But so Britt goes on to say, I'm losing opportunities because what happened? I haven't left the house. The things. One of the things she mentioned was like, yeah, like my insurance license might be taken away now. And why did she say that? Because Angela was like, wait a minute, how? A hit dog will holler? Because why did Britt all of a sudden go from poor me to just attack on Angela? And she kept yelling at Angela, random. Sorry. For those who haven't figured out, I'm not a fan of Britt. I'm not. And the way she's acting towards this in this episode, I was like, this is why I'm not. This is exactly why. She's doing way too much. Angela just asked a simple question, how are you losing your license? Because unbeknownst to, I guess, Britt, she hasn't realized that Angela really does this for a living when it comes to mortgages and stuff like that. She's like, I literally have dealt with mortgage insurance and all that for decades. That's literally my bread and butter. So for her to say that she's just lost her license that quickly, that takes time. That's not going to happen over a rumor. And so, yeah, Britt just gets, and so they go back and forth and back. No peace is to be had. And then finally, eventually, I think either Kelly finally is like, quiet, and has Angela switch with Shamia or someone. They switch spots. And Drew is still trying to also understand things like, look, we talked to Kenya first just because, everyone's trying to be a peacemaker, but Britt ain't really trying to make any peace at all. And I feel like some of the ladies were kind of catching it, but others were just still giving Britt the benefit of the doubt. Because, yes, outside of me not really caring for Britt, I would feel a way too if I was the one that was embarrassed, but you're checking on the person who embarrassed me. That doesn't look great. It doesn't. But if you're to check up the whole entire story, what led to you being embarrassed? Oh, your actions. And Angela called out. She's like, you're not taking accountability for anything you did. Like, I get what Kenya did was wrong, but how did we get here? And I knew Angela was going to have something to say about it because Angela was upset with the scene that she did at the bank, at her event. She's like, I have to face those people now and talk to them and be like, I don't behave like that so I can come back to their establishment because you acted like a whole entire fool. So I think that's a little bit of residual of that happened here. But then towards the end of the episode, Shamia basically had to step in and be the peacemaker. And Shamia even joked in the confessional. She's like, I didn't think I was going to be the one who had to be the peacemaker. I thought I was going to be able to kind of chill and eat my food. But apparently I have to be the one to do it. So Shamia actually asked the same question Angela asked again. Britt explained it instead of getting crazy with Shamia, because child, I think she knows there's certain people you shouldn't be doing that with. Let's hope. Who knows? Who knows when it comes to this lady? But so she explains it, and then Angela, in like her voice, she's like, exactly. And Britt's like, what'd you say that for? What did you say that for? It's like, because you literally said, like, that was the whole entire point I was trying to prove when you were trying to say that your thing got taken away. But come to find out, nothing really happened because they can't just do that. And Britt was like, well, I will still talk. She's like, I thought you were done. Angela was like, I am not having this. No, don't do this with me. And so Shamia steps in one more time. It's like, okay. Let's do a two-step. Let's end it. Let's go to peace. Let's move forward. And that's kind of how it ends. But yet, it really wasn't any peace because honestly, when I saw this scene, Britt is the odd one out. She should not be on this show. In my opinion. She definitely was the odd one out when it came to this group. Everyone else seems like they belong on this show. She does not. I'm just going to call a thing a thing. It's just what it is. Because also, too, when Britt got in an argument with Angela, she literally quoted Kenya. It was like, oh, you planned this. You wanted a reason to get her off this show. If it wasn't going to be what Kenya got herself off the show, but you're going to keep gunning for her until she did something. So from this behavior that I'm seeing. I don't know. And I'm not team twirl or anything like that. Britt's movements, I don't trust any of it. And even when she was kind of describing about how distraught and everything she has, to me, and I don't know if y'all caught it, I know she kind of had a little bit of a smirk when she was talking about it. Just something about her just is not very genuine to me. And that's just my opinion. But anyway, that does kind of conclude the rest of the episode. I did see the preview that they're going to be going to Nashville next episode. So they're going to have like their first like a little mini cast trip. And apparently Drew's not invited. So Portia and that Drew peace offering, that treaty didn't last. But anyway, I'm glad to be back. And thank you for watching me. Please like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you get anything out of the content. It's your girl Sharon, aka the Melanin Nostalgic Runner, and I will see you next time. Bye.